open up all the information in your consciousness about trust. How do I do that? Do I make myself trust, or do I just literally trust? Or do I find it difficult? So do I trust too much? Just become aware when you're doing this exercise. It most likely is focused outwardly. So do I trust my neighbor, my brother, my uncle, my builder? um, and so they are the mirror of your reality. Are you confident? Are you jealous? Are you pressured? So we're going to open up these files. And the very first files, we come into this physical experience. We are hopefully nurtured and kept warm and loved, and we are held and looked after. Well, our consciousness grows. We feel the bond of belonging. And then it could be something as simple as, I know both my children have done this. They were on the changing table, or I'd and just reached over to get something, the nappy or something, and they rolled over and onto the floor. So there's a first drop, a first mishap, a first shock. It could be early or later, but just imagine as a young, clear, conscious being, and you go, oh, that hurt. That was frightening. Why did that happen? Energetically, of course. And you might come to the conclusion something is wrong. And then maybe I've been told it's time to sleep in my own bed, or I have to eat this food. And all of a sudden, the experience is no longer as blissful. We're not putting anything extra negative into the visualization, but just allow yourself to understand that everything was idyllic, hopefully, and that things started to be noticed. And then ask your consciousness to bring up into the active experience the first time mom and dad or siblings weren't 100% on the ball. They're not perfect. You might have hurt your hand in a drawer. They didn't save you. Or you might have burnt your hand or cut yourself. So it's something very natural. But how did your consciousness behave? Just painting a picture so you can start to see how you, particularly you, created a structure. And the next stage is belonging. So let's say you go to school and you need to have a safety unit. Can you trust your friends? Trust the teacher? Just imagine for a moment a friend says something without thinking, because we're children, but it hurt. So how do you protect yourself from that pain of distrust, mistrust? So something that's meant to happen occurs, but it's done in a roundabout way. So I can't trust the outside. So I have to do it myself. But instead of trusting in the being and saying everything is perfect, if I have an experience that's for my own unfoldment, I create an identity, and I'd like you to find what identity you created. Is it controlling? Is it self-reliance? or strong or rigid? Is it resistant? Is it stubborn, stoic? Find your identity. How does your being do mistrust? Overthinking, denial, because it's too difficult, you might jump in head first. And now each time you're asked to trust, there's this little dance going on. My fifth dimensional being, my third dimensional being, the other third dimensional being, or the situation. And so there's so many factors. But if my trust is going outwards, if I need to trust someone, it's going outwards. Can I trust myself to do the right thing, to be in the right place, to wait, to act? There we go. I'm saying this very nicely, but it is a huge step. It's a step of maturity. Usually we trust, it's like without trusting politicians and doctors, and there we go. And in the life path, usually is we are let down so many times until we build this inner trust. But do we build it from a place of beauty, or do we build it from disgust and loneliness? Okay. So find your identity. And this identity as an entity could be, just check it first. Is your identity apathetic or angry? Or is the energy more resistant or floppy. Again, do I believe I can make things happen still, or is it futile? So if it's a futile or identity, it will be sad, um, victim. This always happens. And if it's angry, it's maybe the lawyers, I'll find someone else to defend me or go up against them and fight and get angrier and angrier. There we go. Now I'd like you to see that there's a reason, a very good reason why you are like you are. And how did you win back that trust? Did I change my behavior? Did I become a people pleaser? And then therefore I can trust that my friends will come round for dinner if I invite them, because I barter affection. There we go. If I lost, I don't trust that my mother loves me enough, or my father, or my group of friends, or my builder, or my dentist. So I need to create a different personality. But then God or the universe or consciousness is just the same. And then, of course, if God really loved us, there wouldn't be war or anger or hunger or murder. There you go. Fill in as much as you can of your own story. How many times have you said that something is unfair? So now that you've seen your identity, and it literally is an entity, it behaves in a certain way, it expects certain things, it doesn't want to be disappointed, so it will create barriers, and that's normal. If I live in a dangerous neighborhood and everyone locks their doors, I will lock my door. I will triple lock my door. And that is the 3D mistrust. Then there is the naive, oh, well, nothing bad will happen to me. But then maybe it does. But to truly trust in my being, that if I don't lock my door, I will either not be targeted, or if I am targeted, it is for my own growth. I'm no longer a victim. So talk to your identity, whether it's controlling, stubborn and rigid. So now, if you ask yourself to trust the divine, who is standing at the gate? Who is keeping you from allowing that sensation? Is it control? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it disappointment? Is it recklessness? Apathy? Or is it a bit of everything? So everything that is created as a survival mechanism needs to stay in the game. It has kept me safe. It has kept me sane, or it has made me mad, but I'm alive. Truly honor this identity and see that it has served you well. It is one of the labyrinths of life, how to regain trust in the self, in the big S self, not in the ego self, but in the being self. So drop that attachment to the outside and imagine your full being standing in you or around you. And humans are flawed. That's a fact. But your higher being is ever present, is awareness, can see beyond what you can see. And sometimes what I call the middle of the film is I interpret something as negative because I'm halfway through the process. Trust that this is building something in you and creating the pressure for change. So the question is, how can we trust my bigger self, my soul self? Okay, so we've laid down the plan, and here comes the transmission. The more you let go of these identities, the more of the true self, the authentic self can come in. And I build each time I trust and it feels good. And each time I trust my inner being and I have a positive outcome or a roundabout outcome, a quantum outcome, I start creating that trust. But only if I've let go of the identity before, because otherwise it's just a moment. It's like this time it worked. It is. Trust in the ability of your being to overcome, to withstand, to go through the plan that your soul has created. Trust your soul that this is a way to become more of you. You might do it kicking and screaming, or you might do it flowing and laughing. There we go. You have to create an energy movement that is sufficient to show your old identity that something, someone, some force will be stable and take its place. If you're more on the sad category or more apathetic, it is a little bit easier. But if you're controlling and angry and stubborn, that identity will find it hard to shift. So bring in the compassion and as much understanding as possible. There we go. So it seems to be so everything needs to be perfect for me to trust. And it's the other way around. I trust, so therefore it's perfect. We know this by now that everything that I ask for me to then become, I need to be it for the other thing to come about. So I need to trust, and then trusting it will be perfect. Because if I only trust what is perfect, it will never occur. Can I turn it around in my consciousness? As if you are unlearning the 3D behavior. allow this new thought form, this identity that you don't know, you can only imagine it. But instead of imagining it and maybe getting it wrong, imagine your soul self stepping in as the identity that asks your protector identity to take 2 steps back. And your soul self saying, I've got this. Even though it looks like we haven't, even like it looks like something really wrong is happening, the soul has a totally different agenda than the ego. Allow me to step in, to step forward. Here comes the heat. Here we go. Quantum consciousness, can you see what that feels like? The alignment. Hopefully you can feel that, how this bigger self being, the authentic self, steps forward. And the old identity takes a couple steps backwards. There you go. It's a little bit like along the lines of the hero's journey, that we are dependent on caretakers, and then we go out to the adventure to explore ourselves, to challenge ourselves. And one of these challenges is to find trust inside. And then we become this new being, identity. There we go. Okay, that looks wonderful. Okay, deep breath in. And come on.